You're now streaming. All right. We're streaming.
We're streaming?
Think so. Yep. We're good. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 25 of Conjured Refreshments. We got Mike here. We got Table here. We got a computer about ready to blow up. I'm rolling the intro. All right. Welcome back, Table. How you doing?
Doing all right. Good to be back.
Missed you. We missed you. I had to deal with this guy over here for all that time.
Well, it's good that somebody can keep you in line, right?
Keep me in line. This guy went off on tangents and stuff. Yeah, bouncing stuff off of him. Oh, I tell you what. How you doing, Mike? Haven't talked to you for a while.
Huh? What? Oh. Sorry, I fell asleep.
See, this is what I had to work with without you, Table.
Well, it took so long to get it started. I kind of just decided to take a nap. Doing fine.
Don't get me started on that shit. Oh boy. So, what have you been up to, Table?
Lots of stuff. I missed a lot of it because I was moving and had position changes at work. So it's been interesting.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what's been up with you?
Just work and getting sick and work. See? And
All right.
pretty much that's about it.
We got
Not
quite
a very
few topics.
eventful day or week.
We had quite a few topics, so we're not going to do the pick your artifact and go over your artifact this week. Hopefully, we can bring it back the next podcast. So we'll jump into Legion feedback from 3-9. And let's see here. Talking about Void Bolt cooldown no longer is affected by haste in this build. I think it's a bug. It was a bug. It'll be fixed in the next build. The 1 second GDC floor is disappointing news. The Shadow Priests just need to have awkward haste caps. All expansion as a result of the cap for Void Form to stack. And they came back with Void Form gives some added room to below the 1 second GCD floor, so you don't have to hit it during normal play. So they're trying to do stuff there. Table, I know you play a priest and you wanted to try out Shadow and Legion, right?
Oh, yeah. I think the cooldowns were kind of set how they were, but as far as haste goes, saying that the GCD can be eliminated with the not eliminated but lowered with the haste is pretty awesome. They're going through the paladin route, but if they're going to lower the GCD for void form, I'm wondering how low we can actually get that GCD. It might be a nice thing for Shadow Priest just to spam stuff.
It's like I can see our raids me going, "Hello, can you go, Table Maker? Hello, can you go?"
That's what I'm talking about.
Haste.
No, we got Frost DKs, Frost, some feedback. They're saying that it's okay that Obliterate doesn't scale with haste. It's okay that isn't frost damage. Mastery never affected your overall damage. But it's not good that it falls behind on both. This causes the contribution from Obliterate to fall off. So they're going to work on that. The frequent killing machine procs will increase as you gain haste and as you gain crit chance. So I don't think it's how it works now. So more haste and more crit chance, you're going to get more procs. That's
a little different.
Because isn't right now it's either isn't procs off a crit most of the time now?
How does it proc off haste then? It's just, I guess you can get a higher chance.
Well, okay. Well, if you'll be swinging your weapons faster, so therefore you have a faster chance to crit.
Yeah, but I mean that's really not that's kind of like a given. But saying that you have more chance to proc with crit or with haste is like saying, yeah, you'll swing more times in a minute, but it really doesn't raise your chances. This is saying that it's actually raising your chances.
But if we keep going, they're additionally going to be making Killing Machine proc off of critical auto attacks. So I wonder if Killing Machine only procs off of actual attacks right now, opposed to auto attacks.
Yeah, that definitely could be a haste bonus to that one then.
Yeah. Especially since Frost DK's dual wield, you got two weapons. We could potentially run into a situation where if they don't put an internal cooldown on that stuff, you can have Killing Machine up pretty much all the time.
Back to the OP DKs?
Yeah. So I hope that there's an internal cooldown on that then.
It's going to be the Hero Class expansion. OP DKs, OP Demon Hunters.
Unholy Death Knight feedback. The lingering portion tooltip is correct for the next build. Its function in the build is as intended. It reduces the cooldown of Wrath Walking by 15 seconds and increases the movement speed by 30%, up to 100% for the duration of the change to 3 seconds. Affects all specs. It's worth also mentioning that the animation for it is a placeholder. So that's good. Yeah, very placeholder. With regards to AE, Unholy should be at the strongest when there are multiple targets present for an extended period of time. Makes sense. I think that's how Unholy has been for a while, because you spread your diseases like crazy. They need to do some work on the spread damage contribution. Almost everything needs to come up a little bit, especially in abilities that give specific rot damage. We don't plan to change Death and Decay baseline at right now. Using it skillfully is a good opportunity for Unholy players to shine in short AE windows. So, a little bit of love for Unholy. Bringing up the base damage for spreading their STDs around, I think will be good.
As many of those as we can get around is the best, right?
Right. Blood Death Knights. It's not a design goal for Blood Shield to be difficult to keep up. Blood, percentage-wise, is intended to have the strongest reactive tanking mechanic, Death Strike, and the lowest preventive damage reduction, Bone Shield, of all the tanks. So,
and a little Viagra will fix.
They want Blood to be strong on bringing themselves back, but take a lot of damage. That's how I'm interpreting it. Mike, Table?
Yeah, I mean they're doing a lot of that with tanks, just making them take raw damage. I'm kind of a little worried about what it's going to do for healers.
That forces players attention, makes the players have to pay attention to when they need to use Death Strike, and that makes them be a good tank. Having Bone Shield be relatively easy to keep up can free up the mental space and class resources to improve Death Strike usage in an effective manner. So, I'm not sure. I'm kind of worried of them taking this too far, of making tanks take too much damage.
Especially with them saying that you're going to be able to heal yourself more. Will that mean that tanks should hold off on using those skills until they know that they're going to be taking damage from bosses? Because then you're just leaving things out of your rotation. You're not using your full skill set for your class. You
Right.
kind of relying on healers for everything else, which I mean is fine as a healer. They should be healing, but I don't think that you should have these cooldowns for when you're going to be taking hits. It's damage mitigation. That's what we should be going for on tanks.
Blizzard, and I think we can all agree that they like to swing their pendulums too far one way or the other. Am I the one who thinks that?
No,
Okay.
the thing mostly with Blizzard that I've seen, especially around the Cataclysm area, was like a good example is Paladin, where they'll like switch back and forth between they're like these like amazing healers to like these crap healers to they're amazing again, just like trying to figure out a sweet spot for them, but kind of ruining the other specs at the same time, and everybody around them
Right.
kind of gets screwed in the process.
So this is one of the things where I'm kind of worried they're taking their pendulum too far into one direction for tanks to take a lot more damage. Right now, if we went back to the beginning of WoD, I need healers in heroics. Now, yeah, I can walk in without needing a healer, which at this point of the expansion doesn't bother me. If we walked in day one and got some blue gear and I didn't need a healer, then yes, it bother me. I mean, granted, it would be cool for 1 or 2 runs, but then there's actually no challenge. Whereas now with the expansion where we're at, it's good to help gear up new people who come to the guild or people who come back. They need some heroic gear to get into LFR or whatnot. Just take them with you. Just go, don't die, and go. So I really hope we're not basing the pendulum swing off of where we're at right now in the expansion.
And for me, it's kind of I kind of want to see the other side of the picture, where how are they tuning the bosses and trash and all that, and how much damage those are doing.
And for me as a tank, I hope there's more than just tank swap mechanics. I want a little bit more from.
I would actually like to
I
see
don't
some
know.
of the raid bosses broken down a little bit to see kind of what like. I kind of wonder if the plan has changed on how raid bosses worked going into Legion, and maybe they're doing something different, where maybe the raid bosses don't do as spiky damage or something. But didn't they just start raid testing? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's
I would like to see something where the tank gets a debuff and he has to go over and help kill ads because his debuff actually increases his damage to the ads, but would heal the boss if he attacked it. He or she. I'd like to see a mechanic like that.
Yeah.
But I'm getting kind of tired of taunt mechanics. Tyrant's a perfect example. When you're supposed to taunt on the stacks, we run to a point where we can't taunt because they're immune to taunts until a cooldown's up. Like, oh, he has 2 stacks. I'm supposed to taunt, immune. Okay.
That does seem like one of the other sins that Blizzard does a lot, is they get like a new mechanic or something, and then they beat that horse to death, and then still keep beating it until they introduce something more fresh. It seems like, like, oh, we have this cool new mechanic where you have to stand next to raid members all the time, and then that's the next 20 raids until they finally like, oh, we got another new mechanic where you gotta swap tanks every now and then, and that's like,
Yeah.
like they do a lot of copy pasting, I guess.
It's just something personal, and I don't want that for every single fight where we have to, get a debuff, go attack something. just switch it up a little bit. Still having a taunt swaps in the encounters is fine. Just lessen it some. Make it so it doesn't have to be like back to back to back like we have now on some encounters. How do you feel about that table? Or don't you even tank at all?
I don't really have a tank, so I don't really have too good of input
Do you
on
even
that.
tank, bro? Do you even tank?
Well, I know he had a warrior. I didn't know if he, on his off time tanks or something. I don't know.
No, that was just for like fun dungeons and stuff, not raids.
Okay.
That's pretty much my entire experience with tanking is just fun lower level dungeons and stuff. I haven't really done anything serious as far as tanking when I was on my, because the only character I really tanked on was my paladin. Way back in Burning Crusade, I tanked on a warrior, but that was so long ago I can't even remember what that was like. It's so long ago, and I did so little of it that it's like that was a thing that I did. But from my very limited knowledge, I just kind of would like to see I would like to see these changes in the context of a Legion raid, just to kind of get a feel for how everything works all together, which is really something you can only do if you get into the beta and you test out the raids or something. But that's always really been my view with as far as tanks and healers is it's hard for me personally because I haven't done it. It's hard for me personally to come up with a good opinion on it without actually seeing it in the context of what they're going to be doing, like YouTube videos or something. I don't know, of people who are in the alpha.
A cool example I can bring up for not having to actually have tank swaps as much is the second boss in Mogoshon Vault. The guild recently went back and finished off that achievement to get the mount, and it reminded me that the tanks took two separate things. One took a shield, one took a ability to reflect the damage back to the boss. And if you were a good tank, you were able to absorb one of his attacks and throw it back at him to do a lot of damage. That was cool. I enjoyed that. You didn't have a taunt swap on it, I don't believe, unless you were taking too much damage and your partner took the boss off of you. Like if they missed taking his stun and throwing it back at him, or you missing out of the way of it, then your other tank's going to taunt the boss so you don't get raffle stomped. Something like that. Table, you want to take druids?
I don't know how I feel about druids.
Oh yeah, give Table the book.
Yeah,
I
right.
look at druids, all I see is a wall of blue text.
Right.
Oh, don't worry, Mike. You get hunter, and rogue and shaman.
Oh yeah, those are like a fifth. Anyways,
I can give a mage too if you want, but I figured you wanted mage. Just why I left monk out because I want monk.
yep. All right. So when you say it's tuned now, this is for druids. When you say it's tuned now, are you aware of the current interaction for us? It doesn't actually affect bleeds at all. I would say that no tuning is in regards to our abilities. It's actually close to completely worthless stat at the moment in comparison to everything else, even versatility, and people don't really enjoy that stat either. So I would say design is where the issue is. Bleeds were not designed to interact with haste, vice versa. And they responded with, no, the intention for haste to affect bleeds. There is no intention, sorry, my bad. As far as we can tell, the idea of haste is worthless, is based on live tuning, not alpha design. There's no design for haste for ferals that we see, merely tuning. We'd love to hear what concerns actually are, if any. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but as far as feral druids, their rotation is based on bleeding.
Right.
So
Yep.
if haste doesn't affect that, and you're just going all strength for like how much damage they're taking per tick, wouldn't you think that that haste would be a good thing for like multiple bleeds if they're bleeding and if they could stack those? Because I think haste is a really good way for to like if they can make those bleed damage go higher.
Well, with bleeds a dot, correct?
Yeah,
If I'm remembering correctly, and haste increases the length of a dot now, correct?
I figured it was more ticks within the time frame.
Okay. So if it's more ticks in a time frame, wouldn't haste not be the stat that they want to go for, but it wouldn't be a oh god no stat like versatility is.
No, because since they're based on bleed, you want more tick damage. So if you can get more tick damage within, like, if you do a bleed for 15 seconds and without haste, if there is no haste involved with it, and it's like you get 7 ticks within that 15 seconds. If you get haste, and then it improves it to where you do like 8 or 9 ticks within that 15 seconds, that's a huge increase on DPS if you keep that overall a whole fight.
But doesn't the dot also when doesn't bleed also increase the damage it does based off your agility and whatnot?
Yes.
So and can the bleed crit based off of your crit?
I believe you actually have to crit on the initial skill.
You have to crit initial. Okay. I'm not trying to argue here. I'm trying to make sure I understand how this bleeds and stuff work because I haven't rolled a class with a dot for a very long time.
Well,
Yeah, the
with all the
ticks
other
don't
classes,
crit, but the ability does more damage over time if you crit on the ability, but the ticks themselves can't crit.
yeah.
They can't crit.
So it's like ticking damage for other classes like warlocks. Their ticks can crit, but your haste also makes it tick more times per second too, or per application. So, I mean, as playing a shadow priest, I appreciate being able to use my haste and actually get my damage off.
Mm-hmm.
But as druids, they weave through their bleed damage just like a shadow priest does. So I don't see why they can't just do that over raw damage.
Okay, I see.
Anyways,
Feral Druid plays a lot like a rogue, a sub rogue, where you have to juggle a lot of bleeds and stuff. And
Right.
it would be nice if there was a little more interaction between stats and bleeds. I always thought.
yeah, that's why they're saying that the haste is like the most useless stat for that. But
Yeah.
hey, you can get more energy quicker with haste, so it's a toss up. You're getting haste only for more energy.
Yep.
Sure.
Plus, haste increases your auto attack, I guess, and your non-bleed abilities lowers the global cooldown. Well, actually, it doesn't lower for melee anymore, does it? I think we're gonna get into that later, though. I don't think that's in
Global. I
this
don't
one.
believe so.
Then for melee, the global cooldown is now 1 second baseline for melee. And
I
haste
thought
doesn't
that
decrease it, or
Yeah, I thought that Paladin was the only one that was actually based on the global cooldown for haste.
I'll probably
Yeah,
get to it later, and then I'll clear that up.
for
I'm sure
this
it's
bleed thing, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say I'm sure it's later on in the notes somewhere that we're gonna read off.
As far as this bleed thing, I need to see more actual raw numbers for me to grasp better at what the feral druids are asking and whatnot. I've never claimed to be knowledge of every single class. I just know the basics. Don't ask me how to do the rotations. I can tell you what you need to keep up. I can look at and figure that out. But as far as how to actually implement that rotation, I couldn't do it to save my life without actually doing research. But you may continue, table.
All right. Since a majority of our damage comes from bleed, a majority of the talents on our artifact boost bleed, and there are specific talents which boost only bleed, and haste does not boost any of that damage, there is a concern. We have almost unlimited energy right now, and it does not make gameplay better. Gone is the energy pooling and methodical rotation. So haste making us have even more energy does not seem a benefit, nor does it fit well with our class fantasy. And as evidenced by having more than we know what to do with, doesn't make it any better. And they just acknowledge that it's a tuning issue.
And there, when they say identifying a tuning issue, I really hope that they, since somebody brought it up from the outside, they don't take that pendulum and go way too far.
Now we have no energy. What do we do?
Yeah. Bleed, wait 3 seconds.
Right.
Button, wait 3 seconds. Oh, I gotta do my bleed again.
Yeah, so druids are definitely in a hurting spot right now. It's not that they have too much energy. I mean, because they have an unlimited pool of energy, but if their rotations and everything are sitting them at par at where all the DPS is, maybe they should boost the other damage and then lower the energy.
Yeah.
All right. As long as haste does not benefit bleed, haste will continue to be poor unless its contribution to our direct damage is substantially increased to compensate. That design issue. That is a design issue, not a tuning issue, because the problem cannot be resolved without changing the mechanics of the spec. Oh God.
Just paraphrase stuff.
So no, mastery does not affect the feral's damage, yet it's a high value. Similar haste could be high value if things were tuned differently without affecting all of feral's damage. And this is correct as far as the stats that go down. As we read through this paragraph, they start saying as how the stats affect them. So if they start changing up the spec just based on the haste, that means that they're going to have to change the class completely, which then I would say if they're changing one class completely would push Legion back and probably ruin the class from now on. Let's see. At its core, Feral's damage is made up of direct damage, auto attack, shred, ferocious bite, the bleed damage, rake and rip. Haste improves the direct damage. Mastery improves the bleed damage. Balancing both sides has a relationship ensures that haste and mastery stay balanced. Have you guys played Druid that much?
Not
I've
really.
just played with Boomkin here and there.
Okay.
I gave Feral a try at lower levels.
Yeah, I've done feral at lower levels, and it's kind of close to subtlety, but there's also a lot of differences. So I haven't done it like at level cap or anything yet, though.
It goes on. Let me pull up T18. Okay.
Okay, good.
Tier 18 has a direct reference to Omen of Clarity. The two set is increased chance of Omen of Clarity to trigger an increased maximum energy while in cat form by 20. And the second, the 4-piece bonus, is during Omen of Clarity, your cat form ability generates 100% of its energy cost when used. So, seeing as far if they change up the stats or anything, they still have unlimited energy. There is no need at all, from what they're saying, to get haste with the TR-18. So
Yeah,
that
there's not.
means that is definitely a broken system with TR-18, but we're not going to be using that anymore, I believe.
So yeah,
It's pretty much that one.
and I looking at. I really don't think we need to continue going over because it's again they're just reiterating about the balancing of haste and mastery. They're talking about how the artifact does favor bleeds, and they can tune the artifact to solve that. They also can tune core abilities to assist that. And then they talk about how it is now and how they are going to be changed in Legion. I think we can jump to Hunter. What do you think, Table?
Yeah, from there it's just percentage value of damage. It's very refined to how much bleed damage does and what stats are necessary to make it higher, which is not haste.
Right. Let's see here.
I found a quick thing that explains how dots work with haste.
Okay, go ahead.
Says, say a dot has 12-second duration and a tick period of 3 seconds, unhasted. When you cast the dot, a 12-second debuff appears on the target, and the fourth tick will occur exactly as the debuff expires. If you add 25% haste, the tick period will decrease to 2.4 seconds. Since 5 ticks at 2.4 seconds is exactly 12, you will still get a 12-second debuff when you cast the dot, and now it will be the 5th tick that occurs as the debuff expires. But if you only had 20% haste, now the tick period is 2.5 seconds. Since there's no system in place for handling the partial ticks, the game can either give you a 4-tick dot that lasts 10 seconds or a 5-tick dot that lasts 12.5 seconds. In fact, if you get the latter, the game rounds the closest whole number of ticks. And since in this example, the 5-tick option is closer to the default duration of 12, that's what you get. Finally, if you had 12.5% haste, the tick rate would be 2.667. So a 4-tick dot would be 10.67 seconds, and a 5-tick dot would be 13.33 seconds. This is equivalent from 12, and this is the oft-discussed breakpoint. At the higher amount of haste, you get 5 ticks, and at the lower amount, you get 4. And that is the very mathy explanation of how it all works.
Lots of rounding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Table, go ahead and do Hunter Mage, and I'll take Monk and Paladin, and then Mike can take Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior.
All right. Would still like some control over Haiti. What was that? Anyways, only way I can get it to stop attacking anything is if I unequip my weapon. Is Bestial Wrath meant to make you, your pet, and Haiti translucent and slightly red, or is that broken? Do you guys know what that skill is?
I'll find out while you keep reading.
All right. Haiti should may have some bugs. Following commands you give your pet. Follow all commands that give your pet. Beast Mastery is focus-based spec, so should not be GCD locked. The talent choice allow you to customize how high your GCD utilization is. Bestial Wrath, making you partially transparent, is a bug.
Oh, well, people don't want to be transparent? Come on. Let's see here. It's a spell for Legion. It's called Hades Bound. Requires Hunter. Requires level 1. Hades will now fight for you as your companion. So it's a pet.
Okay, so basically you summon this pet and it just starts going crazy and attacking everything.
Apparently.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Um, why would you focus based spec and not GCD locking? We've historically been the poster boy class for filled GCDs and high APM workflow. So I'm assuming there's a different thought process regarding what involves being GCD capped, like cast time. To clarify here, there's nothing wrong with a hunter spec being designed around having downtime, but I don't think because you use focus is the reason. The response is it's a spec that uses focus as a primary resource and doesn't have a spammable filler, nor any uh, form of variable focus consumption. If it were GCD locked, focus would be pointless.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Marksman. Increased GCD on top of that makes it even harder to maintain those short duration debuffs on targets. The response is the duration of Deadeye and True Aim will be going up in adjustment. I believe that there's an artifact trait that will be adjusted as well. It's not intended that Patient Sniper doesn't apply with Windburst.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
alpha is alpha, beta is beta. If stuff's not working properly, it's not wrong to go, hey, I think it's broken. Or if they change something and it doesn't make any sense, especially if you're in the alpha or beta phase, they'll reach out and go, hey, what's up? What's happening here? You have anything else to add to that?
Nope.
All right, go ahead and take on your lovely mage.
All right. One of the major talents, it's cold outside, will be completely useless if you take the Lonely Winter talent for those people who want to play with no pet to worry about. You should add something for that talent for Lonely Winter players. And they responded with, I believe it already does. Anywhere a trait, buff, and ability that is replaced with a talent. The trait the trait should buff the talent instead. Icy flows plus glacier spikes should work. Just a bug. So they just have bug stuff to fix.
So this is an ability that you don't have to worry about your pet anymore, but you get a buff because you're not rolling with a pet, correct?
Yeah, just kind of like marksman, how it works now.
Okay. I can think of two people who that would be really beneficial for.
Yep.
And honestly, if you play your mage in Legion and that would be your main tune, would you actually consider taking the no pet to increase your other abilities, or would you still want your pet?
I would definitely abandon my pet. For the buff, I mean, the only benefit that I have for my pet is the tier set, which empowers my other damage for my my ice lance, and that's just because
Okay.
of my tier set. Because when uh, my pet attacks, I can then increase my damage, but that changes my rotation completely. So as far as the pet goes, it was only a tier based thing. Mastery, the most useless stat for frost mages, uh, then is out of the question. You don't need mastery unless they change that. It's going to be a good thing, anyways.
All right. Cool. All right. Miss for monks, Mistweaver, uh, RSK cooldown should be back with the next build. It's a bug. So Uh, RSK Rising Sun Kick, I believe. Apparently, somebody thought something was funny. All right. Then we got Windwalker. They changed to Rising Sun Kicks cooldown. Accidentally broke it for Serenity interaction. That'll get fixed. Well, I sure as hell hope so. With that fix, Serenity should be working pretty solid with the new mastery. It does cause you that energy cap, but that's expected when you make everything free. So, I don't know how much you guys know about monks, but Serenity is the ability that whenever you have X amount of combo points essentially build up, you push it, you can spend your chi for free until it runs off. And Rising Sun Kick does have a cooldown on top of your global cooldown. So if they didn't have a cooldown on that, oh god.
It was kind of like the beta for Mist of Pandaria too. No, it was the beta for WoD, where for priests, and I think for most of the other classes, anything that you channeled did not have a cooldown. So with my priest, there were a lot of people over in Pandaria doing duels, and penance was like the thing that killed everybody because you would just like obliterate them just casting penance. This is the funniest thing to see.
Next, Storm, Earth, and Fire. Is it possible to have Guardians like from Storm, Earth, and Fire give XP, loot, credit if they attack something and kill it without us cleaving onto it? If we pull 3 mobs and send it out, they don't group up perfectly and get cleaved from the player. And they said that's on their investigation list. We like to be able to make it count as long as the ability damages them, not just the Storm, Earth, and Fire auto attacks. So Storm, Earth, and Fire, you send copies of yourself out. You reduce your damage, but damage you're reduced by is also being done by the other things. It's not beneficial to put it on the target you're currently fighting, but whenever you have ads around, it's nice to throw it out there. When I DPS on Kilrock, I'll actually throw my clone onto the melee ad, and I'll keep fighting the boss. Or if I see an ad coming up to the pools, I'll throw a guy on him and keep attacking the boss. It's just that little extra damage going out. Eye of a Tiger is supposed to roll damage hot from every Tiger Palm, or is it just to refresh the duration? Is the debuff supposed to be able to be on one target? Refresh. It's a single dot to maintain. It's intentional. It's intentional. The very passive option on the row if you prefer that gameplay. So giving Windwalker a dot to maintain, if that's what they want to play. If that's how they want to play. Chi Orb a couple builds ago, the ability was changed to move much slower around you in a weird path that usually ends up with all 4 stopping in front of you. Wow. The orbs are too close to the player and don't always hit the target when you're right in front of. And it's a bug. They should smoothly orbit around you. Power Strikes. Never liked the ability as a Windwalker. On paper looks fine, but in raid counters, the extra chi usually comes when I'm not expecting and ends up getting wasted by either capping or not dropping an orb, maybe a bug, or dropping the orb while moving. So I would have to go out of melee range to pick up the chi orb. This is improved, maybe solved in Legion. It just stays until you can benefit from it. No more orbs and no more potential waste, which is good. As a tank, I have the healing orbs drop around me too, and it's not so much of an issue for a tank because you're always taking damage. You can always run through them because they're right there. I don't know how many times you guys have seen me on, say, Gorfine, whenever Cougar's inside the stomach. And I'll just be standing there, then next moment I'll be dancing around back and forth. I don't know how many times you guys have seen that. That's just me running through my little Healy orbs.
I should start stealing them.
That would work if you could see them. I think early on in MOP, people actually saw them.
I see your
The other
orbs.
people could. You see
Well,
my
I
orbs?
mean, I see Mistweavers anyways.
Maybe Mistweaver, because I think they could put them out. But as a brewmaster, no, I think, don't quote me, but I think early on in Mist testing, people could see them and they could actually run through my orbs to heal themselves up.
So basically, what they're saying is the brewmaster monk is so drunk that they're seeing green floaty orbs that they think heal themselves.
They're not green. They're a beer colored, like a light ale colored.
Oh, so you see floating alcohol. So you're so drunk that you see floating alcohol droplets flying through the air that you chase after.
Yep. And it heals me.
Go home,
Actually-
Panther, you're drunk.
It actually makes more sense with the artifact weapon that's coming out too.
Healing elixirs, taggers, I brew a 1.5 minute cooldown, and energizing elixir 1 minute cooldown. And the only two abilities that we have now that we now have to activate this talent based on dropping in health could this be changed to be a usable ability similarly to the rogue healing flask, or switched to one ability it procs off of. It was in what way was the automatic trigger getting knocked low not sufficient? The trigger on the ability use is supposed to be geez, oh man, my dog's barking is driving me up a wall. What Blue's asking is, was the trigger for the ability to go off getting your health knocked down not sufficient? Was the ability triggering when it was supposed to be, or was it not happening when it was supposed to be? Anybody want a dog? I have an old dog. He's friendly. He just likes to bark at the air. I'm not joking.
This episode of Conjured Refreshments brought to you by the Humane Society. Adopt Mystic's dog.
I'll jump down to AOA with the new haste changes that we could get Festive Fury to behave like other channel spells, Drain Soul, etc., and have haste add extra damage. Channel spells do not gain additional ticks with haste. So there we go. Another Storm, Earth, and Fire question. Clones still jump to a monster out of combat, pulling extra stuff. They still jump to critters too. I'm really scared to use this in dungeons at the moment, so I'm not sure if it's the new SEF or not. This will be fixed. I hope so. Like, clone, go get that guy. Why are you running up the stairs? Why are you going to the boss? Why are you bringing everything back to me? I hate you. Paladins. Holy Paladin feedback. Just good feedback. There's upcoming changes for Holy Paladin PvP talent soon.
Good job, guys. Great feedback. Love it.
Our paladin community coming together.
You
Mike,
paladins, you
take
keep
rogue.
giving that feedback. For rogues, it
Mike, you
says,
take
for subtlety rogue feedback, it says, good feedback. No. Just says that for all the ones after. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Rogues. Subtlety Rogue Feedback, build 21249, 9th of March. Captain's
I'm gonna start
Log,
stabbing you. I
Stardate
don't know when to stop.
23. Anyway, the bug that I mean is activating Shadow Dance and not having a stealth bar pop up. And the blue response is, this is not a bug. The thought is that there are so few buttons that require stealth, it's not worth having stealth to be a forced separate action bar. It still can be through macros, add-ons, etc. if you prefer. That's certainly subjective, of course, and we're interested in feedback from everyone on that. One of the most common feedback topics here is AoE. We're not ignoring that. Subtlety AoE is divisive for sure. Some like it and so aren't posting here, and some dislike it. We're fine with that. Subtlety has a very very different, but extremely strong in its own way form of DPSing in AoE situations. If it's a style you're not comfortable with, that it's okay to prefer other specs that have more traditional forms of AoE combat. There's also a discussion about talents. Subtlety is trying to satisfy a wider variety of players than before, and its talents reflect it. Something that should be baseline to you is likely avoid at all costs to someone else, and so fits well as a talent. There's definitely tweaks we can do to talents to improve them, and we'll continue iterating though. And that's like 3 things in one answer, I guess, but it's like the blue's just like, you know what? I'm not just going to talk about the Shadow Dance bar. Let's just move on to 3 other topics. But tackling the first thing, though, is, yeah, there's macros and add-ons, and that's what I use to change my bars for Shadow Dance. And when he says that there's so few abilities that require stealth, for me, that's kind of like, yeah, but you kind of want things in different places when it goes to your Shadow Dance bar. Some people do, but I kind of agree that it's not enough, probably not enough people to make it a change that's forced on other people and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a choice that you can do. And if you want to make the macro for it, you can make the macro for it. And that's perfectly fine with me. Like personally, I like to have my action bar when I go into Shadow Dance be completely different than my stealth bar anyway. So
right.
Through like what I use Elven UI or Elv UI, or which one is it? One of those 2.
Elv UI.
I use that, and with that you can make it where it switches to a completely separate bar for your Shadow Dance and a completely separate bar for your stealth, completely separate bar for your normal. And that's what I actually prefer. I don't want it to go to my stealth bar because, for example, like ambush, you have to be behind the target. So that ambush is usually where my spam button is, and I don't want it to be there when I'm trying to spam backstab or hemorrhage or whatever I need to spam. And then just Shadow Dance has different play and stuff like that. It's weird, but it's one of those weird abilities. So I don't really mind that as much as other people seem to, because they did bring it up. So I guess some people are bugged by it. I can see some people not wanting to create an add-on, but I mean, macros are easy to do. And then the other thing they talk about is the AoE for subtlety. And basically, as it is right now, subtlety AoE can be pretty good, but you have to be very, vigilant on it right now. The way it works right now is basically you put Rupture on your main target, you move to the next target, you put a Rupture on them, you move to another target, put a Rupture on them until you have like 4 targets rolling with Rupture on them. And basically you have to refresh Rupture on those 4 targets while building combo points with your Fan of Knives. That's basically how it works now. And as complicated as that sounds, it is very complicated. So that's kind of what he's talking about when he's talking about subtlety, AoE DPS being very different, and how you can get a lot out of it if you play it correctly, but otherwise it's very weak, because a lot of people that are starting out with rogues or something and they do combat or they do assassination, all you do is spam Fan of Knives pretty much on those. Assassination, you do have to put Rupture up on at least one target, but and then combat rogue, you just put up Blade Flurry, and that does your AoE for you. So really, I kind of feel that fits with Subtlety's theme, though, because Subtlety's always been the more complex and more hard to master spec. So, but it seems like they're trying to make it more approachable, though, to a broader player base, so that they're trying to make it a little easier to do or something. But that's what he's talking about there. And then he goes on to talk about the talents, how some should seem like they should be baseline, but the others, they may not be. We'll see about that when you let me into the beta. They always say that, and then there's the cookie cutter builds.
Right.
From what I've seen of the talents, there does seem like they've hit the mark on 1 or 2 tiers, but it seems like all the other ones, there's a lot of, you pick this. No, you pick this. I haven't looked at it since the most recent change of the talents, though, so maybe they changed that. But those are my thoughts on those 3. Just mostly tuning changes, mostly dealing with AoE stuff. But what do you guys think? Anything about that one? Or should I move on?
You said about the whole AoE you have to keep up on. I don't think it's a big issue in all honesty. It just separates the bad rogues from the good rogues. So
yeah, in a way, I wouldn't mind if they branched that out to assassination as well, and just made outlaw spec be the new rogue spec, and then you branch off to the other 2. But
I do, however, disagree that if you're talking from a veteran player, and what you call baseline may not be baseline to somebody else, well, if all the veteran players feel it's baseline, it should be baseline.
Yeah. If Icy Veins or Wowhead or any of those other sites say it's baseline, damn it, it's baseline.
Really, it is.
Or Ravenhold or whatever site you go to get your cookie cutter spec.
Next.
Then the next thing they say is assassination feedback. Relevant to this thread, but we found a bug with assassination. Assassination is death from above that is causing it to hit way harder than intended. We'll be fixing it shortly. Why? I want to hit harder than intended. There's a bug. They're fixing it. That's basically all that is. So.
Okay. Shamans.
Oh. Distracted by the flashing lights that suddenly appeared on my screen.
Oh no, the NSA is out to get you.
Yep. They're always doing that. I just lead them to someone else's computer. Oh, by the way, Mystic, someone may be coming to your house in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Moving on. Resto Shaman feedback. Ancestral protection totem's effect is not intended to consume a combat resurrection charge in raids. If it did, it would provide no benefit to a raid group. Please let us know if you see it do so on alpha, as people surmise the changes in this build are meant to bolster the intended use of the spell, protecting the raid during what the shaman deems to be the most dangerous portion of the encounter. While Ancestral Vigor shares the name of a similar effect from the past expansions, it does not have nearly the same consistent raid coverage or uptime, which may be coloring the first impressions. It is a powerful effect and can be tuned however necessary during the alpha while observing its uptime in practical situations. A damage cap on Ancestral Protection Totem, triggering much like Guardian Spirit, which is the spell most similar, is something we've discussed and have always known is an easy option if it winds up being needed. That said, if the only major concern with the talent is that it will be abused in a Mythic Raid context to break encounters in problematic ways, there is the entire alpha with most raid testing yet to come to give specific feedback on encounter situations. The argument that there's a serious problem will be better handled in the context of real examples that we can evaluate and decide how to handle. Bear in mind that we have a default preference for class abilities to work as advertised in all game situations. Please do give feedback when you have significant examples, however. This is exactly what alpha and beta test is for. And this is an unusual ability that we want to watch throughout. All this is to say we don't necessarily want to have the world where new and unusual class abilities are filtered through a gauntlet of potential high-level raid problems or severely premature analysis of Mythic Raid compositions and quote-unquote fixed before they've been played with in the context of any other. Most broadly, as always, the best mode of alpha feedback to describe actual experiences, positive and negative, from playing the game. Okay. So, Ancestral Protection's totem effect was consuming a combat resurrection for starters. Which, if that was intended, if that turned out to actually be intended, then that would be kind of funny, but it's not intended, so they will be fixing that. Thank God. Other than that, they're just talking about Ancestral Vigor and Ancestral Protection Totem and all that. They're tuning stuff. The totem's new or whatever, and they're trying to get a good feel of it, and basically saying, when we start raid testing, tell us all about it. Otherwise, don't tell us anything. We don't care. If you're testing it in the raid, we care. If we're testing it in the raid, we care. If it's anywhere else, screw you. It works as intended. No, it's that they want the real world feedback on it, like how it operates in the raid environment, especially Mythic. Because last thing you want is people going through Mythic, getting the world first in Mythic, and then everyone saying, "Oh, they use this to break the game mechanics and all that." And sound familiar? If you play during Wrath, you would know what I mean.
Yeah.
So when they get their raid testing for Mythic on the way, everyone play a shaman and use your Ancestral Protection Totem. Except for the tanks. Tanks don't play shaman. That's bad.
All right. You heard it here first. Mike wants me to play shaman as a tank. I'm going to main tank on the shaman next expansion.
Well, you can get a
do
shield.
enhancement. Oh, God, is that you? You suddenly got real echoey. I don't know if Mystic heard that, but
No, I didn't.
okay, so probably no one else heard it, so I'm just imagining things.
Yeah, you probably are.
I'm crazy, by the way. I'm actually live at the insane asylum right now.
I knew it.
Oh no, the orderly's coming. I gotta shut down the computer.
Warlocks,
It's
go.
confirmed.
Anyway, moving on the Warlocks. Destruction Warlock. In addition to the chart changes above, I don't have an above, but we'll just assume there's an above there. Next build should have a significant buff to Grimoire of Service for all specs. We want to make sure it remains attractive as an all-purpose talent option for those who want to retain the standard Warlock with Imp, Fell Hunter, Fell Guard based on spec profile. So change buff in the Grimoire of Service, make it more appealing so Warlocks that want the cool Imp, Fell Hunter, and all that can get it and not feel like they're imping their aid, I guess. At least that's what I get from that. Because everyone's going to pick that one, because who doesn't want the badass looking Imp and Fell Hunter?
Right.
Then for Affliction, person says, hopefully there will be a buff or some way to track how many souls are active so we know exactly what our buff will be. And Blue says the button will show it. Mana Tap is a talent that is loved by some and hated by some people. That is a weird way to say that, but okay. Being an optional talent, that's fine, as long as other competing talents are attractive gameplay to you. Are they? Why or why not? Remember to ignore tuning. The best talent on the row, DPS-wise, is irrelevant at this point. Is it? What are you trying to say here, Blue? Ignore this heavily DPS talent. Just ignore it. Don't pay attention to it. Look at the other two.
Right? And then ignore the tuning that we're going to be doing on it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, look, a puppy. It's like,
Ooh, butterfly.
Aren't we supposed to pay attention to it? Because we could then tell you about it, and then you could tune it so it's level with the other talents, or tune the other talents up so it's level with that one. And then there's that whole some people thing he does going on here. Hated by some people, loved by some people. But yeah, basically they're just how many souls will be on the button. So I guess that means you mouse over the button and it tells you how many souls.
Maybe it'll be like the cooldown where it shows the count on it.
Yeah, maybe. And then Demonology Warlock. Demonology Warlock. Doom has an awkward mechanic, I noticed. Sometimes it won't refresh at all, even when hard casting it, because however they coded it to make it so it doesn't store partial ticks. Blue says you should be seeing a powerful spell is already active. If you cast Doom on a target that already has Doom, it is not near the end of its duration. If your cast fizzles out with no error, that's a bug. Hand of Doom works the same way. This does not mean you can have minor gaps in Doom uptime. No, this does mean you can have minor gaps in Doom uptime with Hand of Doom. There's a lot of Doom in this sentence. Doom. But the talent's value is not significantly impacted.
We're all doomed.
I don't think I've ever seen a sentence with so much Doom.
Doom.
Demonology
doom,
Warlocks
doom,
now
doom,
with
doom,
2
doom.
times more Doom.
Call now. We'll throw in this extra doom.
Doom and gloom when things go boom. In Dexter's laboratory. Uh,
And warrior.
Yeah. Arms Warrior. Double time is even harder to take now, as it competes with a damage effective Stormbolt and Shockwave's AoE stun. I really don't like this restriction on mobility, but I'll excuse it if you finally give us a kills reset the cooldown on charge. Blue says Stormbolt and Shockwave are no longer DPS gains. They're now utility. Great, I guess.
Wah, wah, wah.
So that's actually a decrease in single target damage now that they changed the Stormbolt to no longer have DPS in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. We got some more feedback for Legion. Death Knights. The Bone Shield still has a 2-second internal cooldown and is going to stay with that for foreseeable future. Blue says yes. Balanced Druids. They're going to try out Moonfire and Sunfire generating 6 astral power on cast. They think it will help in a number of ways. It will help with AP generation in AoE situations. When you actually use Starfall, oh god, more Starfall. More often. It will help maintain AP generation in movement heavy situations, and it will help make AP generation more consistent.
And it will help draw all the mobs in the room to you faster.
I heard more Doom in that sentence than the last one.
Right? All right. Mike, I know you don't play very much, but Table you do still. We don't tell Ursa about that.
Agreed.
Starfall, now with more ad pulling.
He's already considered changing to a different class for Legion. Don't tell him more Starfall is coming his way.
Well, they did change it in Alpha to where Starfall was a much smaller range. Now they backed out of that and they went to a much larger range. And it's kind of like that pendulum swinging.
Even if they made it a really small range, Ursa would still find a way to pull the mob 2 floors away. You know he would.
Yep.
Basically, druids are beacons for all the ads in the room to come to the raid.
No, just Ursa. I've raided with other boom chickens. They don't do what he does. I don't know how he does it.
Other boom chickens don't use Starfall. Like they just like, okay, I just won't use Starfall in this scenario. Smarter use of Starfall. I'm sure that's the difference.
So Ursa uses Starfall on the Gorfane fight, and all of a sudden Manaroth shows up.
He's immune to my Starfall spam. In fact, it's only bringing more.
Oh, look, there's Archimon.
Hey, Illidan's even coming. Wow, that Starfall has some reach. You got Illidan from the Burning Crusade just showing up.
Let's see here. Next thing is a great starting idea, but what makes nature's balance even worse than it currently is regardless of the fact that it has not granted the proper time increase to dots since alpha 0.0.0.0.0.0. That's not possible, bud. You need a 1 in there somewhere at least. You need a 1. This should have been fixed with the last alpha build. To be blunt, I believe there will be spam of Moonfire and Sunfire in almost all non-raid content, especially PvP and leveling, especially low levels. It's not quite the same as Kata solar cleaving, but it's uncomfortable how close it is. They came back, said not sure how that wasn't already the case though. It makes less of a DPS penalty to move, certainly, currently, Solar Wrath is still currently better than Moonfire and will be close enough that we will see though that we will that we see you happy moving at even the slightest provocation instead of trying to get a cast off, in which case we're fine with spreading them further apart, 4 or 5 AP instead of 6, for example. So, yeah, you can do your Moonfire, Sunfire spam all you want, but Wrath is still going to be more of a DPS increase. That's how I took it. You guys?
I take that as you need to do more Starfall.
Yeah.
Hey, we actually have Holy Paladin feedback this time.
Oh, they do? Wow, something must be broken.
They'll continue to look at overall tuning throughout beta, especially after such a significant change. But it was most important that at the moment to get all the level 100 row to some more reasonably conductive and having competitive options. They don't like the somewhat tacked on mastery bonus to Beacon of the Lightbringer. It undermines one use case of a talent. So really there's a little feedback, but not as much as what the Shadow Priest is going to have. And table, go.
All right. Let's make like America and tackle this wall right now. Feedback. I should add Radiance is still showing the double cast effect, where it has to be cast a second time with the casting priest as a target. So this is a bug and will be fixed next build, as well as the atonement bug for Legion scaling areas. Radiance is intended and meant to have the atonement represent a large portion of its value, which is also reflected in its costing. We can make it prefer non-atoned targets. That does not remove the ability to repeatedly cast on the same target, for example with Grace. But that's fine for the generally not the desired use. So, casting atonement on stuff. I guess they're fixing that so you have to actually cast it on things, or it's going on extra targets.
Okay.
Shadow Priest feedback. Hey, Void Dwellers, let's talk a bit about Shadow, shall we? There's a variety of topics to touch on.
Have fun.
Good times. Check this out.
Starting to notice a theme with this particular episode.
Yeah, especially the priest stuff.
It's table reads all the longest stuff. We gave you the druid one, which was like a whole wall of text. And now we give you this one, which is a whole wall of text.
Well, I gave him this one because it's a class he plays.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Multi-dotting and AoE in general. Shadow is one of our most heavily dot-based specs. That implies that multi-dotting should be their preferred method of attack several enemies at once. But unlike Affliction, your rotation also includes direct damage spells as well, especially the Void talents. So we need to make sure that the balance is struck between the two. Our goal is that you can apply your dots whenever you run out, but that you'll prefer to do so while not in Void form, so that you can spend more time in your Void form nuking the life out of your enemies with Void bolts and the like. We've got this cool cyclical rotation going on, in and out Void form. Trying to stay in Void form as long as possible, and then getting back into it as fast as possible. But multi-dotting doesn't really fit into that well right now. It slows down your rotation massively and requires reapplying dots to multiple targets while in void form, leading to no longer times out of void form and shorter times in void form. That doesn't flow very well, so we're going to make some new changes to solve that. Void Bolt will refresh Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain. So for this one, they're making it so Void Touch and Shadow Pain are fully extended rather than partially extended. Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word will generate a small amount of Insanity on cast. The same amount per tick as Mind Play. This should let the multi-dot without slowing down your Insanity generation rate. To preemptively answer why we don't put Insanity generation of dot tick. It's primarily for two reasons. We tried internally and found that we made some Insanity generation feel very disconnected from your actions, feeling more like a constantly generating resource like energy. And it would scale exceptionally well with the target count, leading to an acceptable overall void form uptimes when multiple targets were around. The too stark of a feeling difference between single and multi-target situations. Insanity generation did not generation on cast doesn't have either of the issues, so we're going on with that. It sounds like they're having issues with void form and consistency of staying in void form through dots, since dots are the primary way of attacking. And you go in void form, you build up the insanity, go in void form. Once you're in insanity, you start using void attacks. And void attacks, now what they're saying extends the dots, so you don't have to reapply your dots, losing your insanity faster. Because when you attack with void, it extends your insanity while you're in void form, while the dots don't. So that's what this is getting at.
Okay.
Ramp up time. For cyclical rotation to work, it's important that the significance time on both sides of the void form line and the lingering insanity lets you speed up the cycle up as you maintain it, creates some fun gameplay. But the first ramp up of the fight can feel like it drags on for some. So we want to make sure that there are some talent choices that you kickstart your rotation. Currently in Shadow Word Void, to a lesser extent, Power Infusion. Do that, but we think that you're not quite as strong enough to live up to that goal. We're planning on a two-tweak Shadow Word Void to help deliver on getting your Void form quickly. So that's just the first rotation to get to void form. Mobility. Every class, every spec needs to have some weakness, but Shadow's currently in mobility is fairly stark in that regards. It's especially painful for their cycle to slow down and to a crawl. They can't cast time. They can't get cast time for spells. The aforementioned change to Shadow Word Pain generating insanity on cast should help significant with that. That said, we are concerned about the risk of shadow priests running around spamming Shadow Word Pain constantly in PvP, and we'll be keeping an eye on that, which is kind of what they do right now. Utility. Shadow is a very odd situation when it comes to utility, especially in PvP. The amount of potential utility they offer is astronomical. Its staggering long list: Body and Soul, Dispel Magic, Dominate Mind, Dispel, Mass Dispel, Mind Bomb, Power Word Shield, Psychic Horror, Psychic Scream, Purified Disease, Shackle Undead, That's not used in PvP. Shadow Word Mend, Silence, Vampiric Embrace, probably something else I've forgotten offhand. But at the same time, despite the crazy number of utility spells at the fingertip, it's actually quite hard for them to actually use many of them, since their rotation is based on continuously generating insanity as fast as possible. Any time lost to utility is punishing, especially in void form, where you're actually losing insanity while casting the other things. And then on top of that, many of the spells cost huge chunks of insanity as well. We're not happy with that situation and are considering potential options. They could probably stand to lose at least a couple of spells off that list, but we're also considering bringing back mana as additional resource so that would just be used for limiting your usage of many of the utility spells, with spells proportional to their impact. 2 resources.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I'd feel about running around with 2 different resources trying to manage both of them.
It's not as bad as you think. I
No,
like ideal in the monk.
it actually doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound like mana would be something that would really interfere with insanity, but it sounds like you can ignore mana altogether. So why do we have it? I mean, if we're gonna go through utility, that just have
Just
no
ask
cost on it,
paladins. Just
right?
ask paladins how it feels.
Or
But
protection paladins.
Yep.
Survivability. We see a fair number of complaints with Shadow is squishy. That's true and intended. Their offset factor should be their shields. Their self-healing. Vampiric Touch provides very strong, consistent self-heals. So strong that oh, they're nerfing that. Okay. Shadow Mend is extremely strong, spammable heal. And Vampiric Embrace, the new version, is a group and self-heal. The one thing that we think isn't living up to its goal is dispersion. It's extremely strong, but the DPS cost on your rotation is quite strong. We're trying to we're going to try pausing your insanity decay when using it in void form. Uh, Dispersion actually just like ends all DPS. You can't attack while you're in it.
Huh.
But it reduces damage taken like 90%.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's an extremely strong skill.
it is.
Talent as mind blowing as they are fun. The fantasy is extremely strong, and the gameplay concept as well. We don't agree that it needs to a redesign, and are totally fine with many people considering it too niche or too extreme. We may tweak the exact implementation, increasing insanity generation versus decreasing void form insanity decay, but are very happy with the overall design. Next feedback. So tired of that other feedback. Also, like I said on Twitter, you did not need to address the issue of people 100% wanting full insanity on every poll. That's what the ramp up paragraph is about. Any mechanic that lets you start raid fight at 100% insanity will be fixed. Not even sure what tuning Shadow Word Void into the Chaos Bolt Pyroblast type attack would truly excite me, except for the needed for an encounter. To me, Shadow is a high consistent damage, but not mega burst spells. Shadow Word Void damage is decent, but not intended to be especially strong. It's not like a Chaos Bolt or a Pyroblast. It's a point. Its point is on demand, bankable, massive burst insanity generation. Can you share the planned Shadow Word Void tweak is? Currently thinking raising insanity generation and recharge time is 30 insanity for 30 seconds. Same total over time, but more bursty to help get there at the start of a fight in just a few global cooldowns. Still playing with it though. A normal non-execute void form seems to be about 20 to 24 seconds for me. And an STM void form with a Reaper of Souls is under 35%, is about a minute and a half to minute and 40 seconds. This is roughly the ballpark of an exception expect void form. Look like it without STM. The way the amount of movement interfered with STM is likely to holding back more, if apparent, for most of alpha. It's possible to get a 90 stack plus STM void forms in ideal conditions, but any break in your casting can end it very quickly if it decays as a mind blast. Movement can change. With the movement can change so long as you can maintain the tight rotation, even while moving. So, basically, the whole thing, the whole wall of text here is talking about void form and how long that you can stay in it and how long it takes to ramp up to it.
I
So,
think it was good information.
yeah, it's pretty good information. It's just they repeated themselves a lot on there. So basically, they're
Yeah.
tuning down the dots to where you don't need them as much in void form, which don't let your dots like get close to being done right before void form, or you're still gonna have to cast them in void form. So more time in void form. You're gonna have two different rotations, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. You still excited to try out the Shadow Priest?
Yeah, I think it looks nice. It's gonna be like playing a lock, and then when in void form, playing a mage. So
Okay.
it's unique.
Mage Lock Priest.
Pretty much with those heals too on the side and all the utility that they got.
Overpowered
All right,
nerf.
Mike. Take Shaman.
Resto Shaman be back. We have been discussing the Spirit Link issue a good bit. No promises on timing for this, but we believe the correct solution to the underlying problem is a game-wide fix to made reticle targeted spells easier to use. Reticle targeted? Okay. Essentially making the spell queuing system usable with those spells so that you can bring up the reticle and place the spell in time for it to happen smoothly following your current global cooldown. Oh, that's the little thing. They're talking about the little thing on the ground, the circle effect or whatever. I was thinking they were talking about like the little dot in the middle of the screen for a shooter or Blade and Soul. I was like, WoW doesn't have that.
Oh yeah, they're bringing that in. You know that?
Anyway, this will go a long way towards stopping all the reticle targeting spells on all classes from feeling so disruptive in any sequence of casts, and we want to get it working as soon as we can. In the case of Spirit Link Totem, we recognize that this isn't the perfect setup. Setup for the case of using it as a personal save in PvP, since it still requires a click. However, in most cases, this would... God damn it. In most cases, this would allow a practiced player to drop the totem with no delay, introduced by the click. and value of projecting SLT in every other use case is significantly high that is still appropriate for the spell. So
Okay, so basically making the system favor those ones over other spells.
yeah, I always kind of agreed that what they call reticle targeting thing was always disruptive to the gameplay anyway. But I don't like having to click on the spell and then not click, but hit the spell and then click where I want it. When I have those kind of spells, I'm just like, because it's just like you got a fast-paced gameplay like what rogues do. Rogues have a very fast-paced gameplay where you're thinking on your feet, and then they have an ability where I think Smoke Bomb used to do this, where you hit Smoke Bomb, and then you have to pick a place on the field where you want it and strategically place it, and it's like sudden slowdown of your pacing. But it seems like they're working on changing that or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Mike, take away the Legion PvP blue post.
Things are happening in PvP, but they opened up skirmishes on Alpha, so people can do some skirmish testing in the arena. They have it where healers will only be placed in 3v3 matches, while DPS and tanks might find themselves in either 2v2 or 3v3 matches. Good luck, have fun. So
no healers in a 2v2. Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because it'll shorten the 2v2 games a little bit. Tanks can still show up in a 2v2 game, but from the changes they made with tanks, I'm not sure if tanks will pose as much a problem as they do currently in PvP. It seems like they may be a little bit more manageable PvP-wise, but it's definitely interesting because it seems like healers have always been kind of the bane of 2v2 in my experience with it, where you'll go in and it's a healer DPS combo, and if you have a DPS or DPS tank combo, well, if you have the DPS combo, sometimes you'll find that you just get raffle stomped by the healer DPS combo because you just can't keep your DPS up or you can't coordinate right and all that. Whatever it may be, depending on which healer it is. Some are more OP than others. Druid. No, that was back in Burning Crusade when druids were like insane. But so, and with tank, if you go in tank DPS versus tank healer, I always remember those battles lasting until the arena timer runs out. So it's nice to see healers aren't going to be that much problem in 2v2 anymore. But yeah, I think it's a nice change. It'll definitely make matches shorter. So if you just need a short match, you just do 2v2 and get rid of those damn healers. But I could kind of see, though, where healers may feel a little gimped on it because they can only queue for 3v3 mode. So it's like they're taking away a mode from them. So I can see where some healers may not like that. But I feel like it's a good change overall, personally.
Yeah, and these are only skirmishes, too.
Yeah, it's not rating or anything. That's why, like, the healers that I feel might not like it, I feel like are a very niche group of healers, maybe. Like, just like a 1% group or something, or less than that. Where they're just like, you're taking content away from me. But then other than that, there's a section on PvP healing. We definitely agree that healing feels undertuned in PvP right now. We'll do a pass on it. So, excuse me. Damn cough. So basically right now they're saying that healers are dying a lot in PvP, so they'll fix that.
Which is
basically
good.
What that means. Yeah. It'll be nice to see like if I get in beta or once I get in live, it'll be nice to see where everything really lands. I can't really tell right now with all the changes going on constantly and all that. But it'll be nice to see if they actually finally get it because of the separation they're doing between PvP and PvE finally that we're seeing them doing a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if healers actually are tamed down enough that it makes the games feel much more fair and even and all that. As someone who plays a melee DPS class or just a DPS class in PvP, I've always found that's the main frustration for a DPS class is when you go up against a healer and you just cannot take them down at all. Good luck.
Right.
Or you duel, or even if you just do a one-on-one duel with a healer and all they're doing is they're dancing around and stuff, and you're barely touching them.
Well, PD Moss and myself had on Sunday a good long duel because I was on my tank, he was on his healer. He couldn't damage me. I could damage him, but he could heal himself right back up.
Yeah.
It really came down to I was working on something. I told him that, and we just stood there and meleeed each other, and I ended up winning for just the meleeing part.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Legion changes that to where, well, maybe not a tank versus healer. That may not get shorter, but because I mean it's a tank versus healer. Come on. But I know as a DPS, it's always been if I try and 1v1 a healer, the only way I win is if they go and that's a long wait. Suddenly you're in a battle with attrition. Just slash quit. Slash G quit. There you go.
No. PD beat Urs in their duel.
Huh.
So PvPQ times.
It is very important to us that we're able to get feedback from this process. As such, it's important you're able to find PvP matches so you can offer feedback. We'll be watching the queue situation closely as the new build comes up. So they're working on this, I think, battleground queues because there's no Ashran. So Ashran-like place. So it looks like they're going to be tuning it where they're going to try and get it where there's shorter queues for the battlegrounds, which would be nice.
And speaking of Ashran and Legion.
Yep.
That's your cue.
Hold on, I'm trying the stupid throat thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Smoking does that to you.
More like the flu. Damn flu. I need to get unaddicted to the flu, man. Anyway, Wintergrass, Tolbarad, and Ashran were all made during different technological eras in World of Warcraft. Ashran being the most recent. It is far easier for us to convert it to a battleground, like instance supporting region-wide queues. The work involved with adding that support to Wintergrass and Tolbarad is equivalent to making them from scratch. Perhaps we will do it one day, but currently our efforts are directed elsewhere. What?
Well, with what they're saying is each one of those was made at different times in their life cycle, but whenever they made Ashran, they built it specifically so whenever the next expansion comes out, they can actually convert it over to a battleground without making a big rebuild.
I mean, that's kind of the thing I'm kind of struggling with here. For me anyway, it always felt like Wintergrass and Tolbarad could easily become battlegrounds because they both had queuing systems and stuff like that in place. And I guess they might mean they can't make it instanced like battlegrounds are or something. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe
because the main problem I've always had with like the Ashran, the Wintergrass, Tolbarad while you still can go to them in the world, a lot of people usually queue for them, and especially Asheran, it always felt like later in the expansion, it felt like a battleground anyway to me. It's like, okay, so now it's just basically a battleground. Because it always seemed like you'd go somewhere, you'd queue for it, you'd wait for the queue to pop, you'd go there instead of actually physically going there. The only one I actually remember physically going to a lot of the time was Wintergrasp, and that was just because you had to get resources before the timer ran out and the battle started, and then it ported you out, and you had to queue for it.
You also got to remember those two, Wintergrasp and Toberad also have a raid instance in their area.
Yeah, maybe that's
That
the
could
other
also
thing
be
too.
a limitation too.
Yeah, they made maybe in order to make them a battleground, they'd probably have to shut down the raids. That may be one of the make it where during the battleground people can't just go into the raid and start doing the raids. Just not participate in the battleground. That would be kind of funny. Where'd the alliance go? I don't know.
So moving on from that, we have a sad thing. Zarheim is no longer with Blizzard.
Yep, moving on.
How do you guys feel about that one?
I think that we're losing a lot of people from Blizzard, and something's going on internally that we don't know about. But for the most part, it's not like terrible. I mean, considering that how long it's taking for each of them to leave, it really can't be like a huge bad thing.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is the other CMs, whenever they left, they did a farewell post. Zarheim didn't.
Yep. Leaves a lot of questions. I mean, like just right now,
night, like, I'm not here, guys. Bye. Have fun.
Just right now, as we're talking about this, MMO Champion just updated, as far as I know, with another guy who's leaving, who's been there for 22 years, Mickey Nielsen.
Seriously.
So it's everyone's jumping ship. Yeah. But even he got a goodbye post. But maybe, I mean, it could be that Zarheim just doesn't want the fanfare leaving. And that could be it, but it could just be his personal preference.
Maybe.
Like maybe he just quit and he's like, you know, guys, I've been doing this for 11 years. I'm sick of it. I'm leaving. Just don't bother with the posts or whatever. I'm just going to quietly step out. I'll just have it show up on my Twitter one day and people will be like, what?
Oh, by the way, guys, I've been gone for 2.5 years.
Yeah. But now you have Ghostcrawler and Zarheim, two of the ones that at least I knew better than the other ones. The other ones I'm like, who?
Granted, it's just a CM.
Yeah.
But it does kind of worry me whenever we're losing a developer. We lost a developer. We're losing CMs who actually talk to the community. And I really haven't heard that much from Lore recently.
And the other one that's leaving is the publishing lead.
Yeah.
It looks like he mostly worked on the Black Temple trailer and Overwatch.
You have anything else to add to that table?
No, not really. I mean, I think it's their choice. When ultimately people get upset about it, they kind of just have to step back and realize that a lot of people leave different jobs for different reasons, and this is just another step in it for him.
Doesn't keep the comment section of MMO Champion from exploding with, why do you leave? Conspiracy theory? End of World of Warcraft. Jumping ship. That's pretty much all I'm reading here. Yeah, that's it. That Legion's the last expansion. Zarheim left. They said the same. I remember they did the same thing for when Ghostcrawler left. It's like, oh, Ghostcrawler left. It's the end of the world. End of the World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. That's it. People get scared.
On a more light note, we have a picture of the map where Broken Isles is going to fall.
can swim to Northrend if you get tired of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Looks
you
like
know
you can.
what? I'm sick of these broken isles. I'm just going to swim to Northrend. I liked Wrath better anyway. I
So
wonder if you
yeah.
actually can, or if they have like one of the a fatigue barrier there.
Well, looking at the map and looking at the way the water is, it doesn't look like it's going to be that way. It looks like you can actually get to it.
I bet there's
Well,
going to be people that try. A lot of skeletons floating in the water.
looking
What were
at
you going to say, Table?
the map before sundering, like everything's just one continent. But the way that it breaks off into this, it just makes it look like, how is that possible for Broken Islands to be there? Um, it's just another question that's up in the air for it.
Maybe the thundering happened, it sunk, and now that they're raising the tomb, it came back up.
Global warming, guys.
There you go.
That Blizzard said that the Broken Isles never actually sunk or something like that, because someone raised the question on why there's established civilizations on the islands when they were underwater, and I think a blue said, "Oh, they were never actually underwater," or something.
Yeah, and the Eastern Kingdoms is now further away from the maelstrom, and it's like we're just discovering this when we sent ships over there and got the goblins from there. That doesn't make any sense.
Plus, you think we would have discovered it on our way to Northrend when we're going
Yeah.
to the Howling Fjord, because it seems like the ship would have run into it. It's like, did it just kind of take the long ass route and just kind of come in and not notice the island that's looks like it's close enough that you could at least maybe see it through the fog? Or like, hey, there's land over there.
Well,
I wonder
Aliens.
why the Lich King didn't try and take the Broken Islands either, because it's like
I have
right on
a-
his back porch.
I have a small theory about this. When the sundering happened, everything just exploded away. It was right under the Broken Isles, so it was shot up into the air, and it finally just landed.
Damn.
So it wasn't underwater; it was floating in the air.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, moving on to
We have just cracked the Illuminati of Blizzard.
build notes. On 3.9 they unlocked new specializations to try out. Frost Mage and Assassination Rogue. For class status, they continue to iterate on classes, abilities, and talents based on testing and feedback. The build that we're talking about right now could reflect some of that. Haste and core combat abilities. We've taken a pass on core combat abilities to ensure that haste properly accelerates the procs of your rotation and provides solid stat value. In many such cases, we made the abilities cooldown slightly lower, but reduced by haste. Multi-targeting ability tuning. While overall tuning is still not done, we've adjusted the relevant tuning of many multi-target abilities to make it more rewarding to switch to them in 3+ target situations. This primarily applies to the abilities that you actively choose to use in place of single target abilities. Demonology Warlocks continue to revise their talents in core rotation, notably Demonic Empowerment, now buffs all pets, and Power Trip has been changed to a new effect. All hunters, in order to ensure that haste can properly affect them, all hunter specs now have a 1.5 GCD introduced by haste. Ability cooldowns have been adjusted to ensure the consistent combat pace. Marksman Hunter, some tweaks to the core abilities. Notably, Hunter's Mark will trigger more often. Outlaw Rogues, Bribe, adjusted, and Sap returned. So Outlaw Rogues get their Sap back. Roll the bones, tuning adjusted, significant bug fixes with between the eyes and run through damage. Enhancement shamans, tweak core rotation. Arms warrior, colossal smash, and Titanic revised. They and many talents were revised. Fury warriors, enraged duration is no longer reduced by haste. Some talents revised and abilities retuned. Artifact status, many artifact traits have been revised in this build. Some noteworthy changes in general. They're in the process of transitioning all artifacts to provide one ability, usually an active ability baseline, and the rest 3 traits instead of 2 baselines. Many of the previous procs have been moved into traits. This has been done on most, but not all artifacts. Marksman Hunter, significant revision on many traits. Holy Paladins, revision on several traits. Guardian Druids, again revision on several traits. Demonology Warlocks, same thing. Destruction Warlocks, significant revisions on many traits. Shadow Priest, several traits revised. Elemental Shaman and Enhancement Shaman, several traits revised. Beastmaster, Hati, however you say that one. The table said the bird thing has a new model and varies based on selected artifact variant. Unholy Death Knight, several traits revisited. Arcane Mage, significant revision to many traits. And then we got Heroic Dungeons. Heroic versions of Legion dungeons will soon be unlocked for testing. And to clarify about the haste in GCDs, all specs should now fall into one of 2 categories. A 1 second GDC, not reduced by haste, provides extra quick and bursty combat feels such as rogues, and a 1.5 second GCD, reduced by haste to a minimum of 1 second, the standard GCD used by everybody else. Since that's a consistent game-wide rule now, we no longer mention the fact that haste reduces some GCDs and tooltips. Might go ahead and take away the white talk there.
Thanks for the update. Can't wait to look at Assassination Rogues. One thing, though. In last week's notes, it was mentioned that Subtlety received many changes to talents and baseline abilities to adjust rotational speed. However, the changes in that build and in this build for that matter are not reflective of that statement. Are those changes scrapped, coming in future build, or still an iteration? And Blues say data mining may have missed them, but they were there. So from his question, I'm not sure if he's talking as a alpha player, like if he means actually in the game, or if he means data mined, but apparently Blues thinks he means data mined. So from the way he words it, it kind of feels like he's saying the changes aren't in the build because I haven't experienced it myself in the alpha, but of course Blues probably assume most players aren't in the alpha. So.
Right.
But yeah, data mining might have missed some stuff. Who knows? Data mining is not a science, I'm sure. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I've never done it myself.
Nope.
Let's see. Then the next thing it says, does this include the Druid shapeshifts or Mist Dispels? Both of these spells have a 1.5 second global cooldown, unaffected by haste on live. And last time I was testing in Legion, even on specs which have every other spell at 1.5 second global cooldown reduced by haste. If you find any 1.5 second global cooldowns On class abilities that are not being affected by haste, let us know. So basically, if it's anything above a 1 second global cooldown, it should be affected by haste, and if it's not, then that's a game bug.
Okay.
If it's above 1 second global cooldown, then it should be reduced by haste down to 1 second. So that's how it should behave if it is working as intended. And then the all right. And then it says ferals fall into neither of these categories. Haste doesn't give us any discernible increase in our direct damage, and the rest of our damage, the majority, does not benefit at all. Are there any plans to address it? Blue says druids use a mix of the two categories. The first for everything with cat form, and the second for everything else. Haste tuning may be low on feral right now, but there's nothing design-wise that forces that to be the case. It's not tuned yet. Further feral specific feedback in the feral thread, please. So they're looking for more feedback on that, and they're still tuning it. And they're not done yet. Quit complaining, we're not done yet.
All right. And then some more blue talk. Secondary stat scaling in Legion. Someone asked or stated, the thing I realize is that the single stat item has much stats on an evenly distributed item at the same level, and even more than an unevenly distributed item. And they said that was originally done to encourage players to be diverse on their secondary stat. The closer an item was to the single secondary stat, the more it suffered from a penalty. We reevaluated and mentioned we were doing this by in 6.2, finding that most people were just confused by it and didn't affect a balance in any significant way, so we changed it. Your secondary stat rating should add up to a consistent value no matter what combination is from here on out. I don't know, I kind of like my gear with two secondary stats and occasionally having that third stat.
It definitely balances out things.
Mm-hmm. If not, I'm just going to go find every piece of gear I can that just has one thing, mastery. I'm set. Yeah, why don't you take everything down to Demon Hunter?
Ability, damage, and PvP. We've discovered a bug that weapon damage is being calculated incorrectly in our PvP stat templates. A lot of damage is overtuned as a result. We're working on a fix as soon as possible. So they just overtuned the damage that they were getting back.
So if you were having fun in PvP in the alpha, because you were raffle stomping things, it's going to change.
Ashran and Legion, level 110 players will be able to queue for Ashran from the UI in Legion. It will work similar to the Battlegrounds, and you can queue up to with 5 players. So okay. No raid queues.
But you know what though? Isn't Ashran more of a raid thing?
Yes. Well,
it is. You'd pug the rest, but
yeah, it's kind of like AV.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
They don't want pre-made groups versus pug groups. It's been a change that's been in for a while because people kept getting raffle stomped by pre-made groups.
Okay.
Coordination makes all the difference.
Equal gear for faction vendors. Can we get a vendor or something that can have equal gear regardless of which faction we choose? It's kind of weird how Horde and Alliance Shadow Priests have different gear. Alliance gets the RPPM caster DPS trinket, while the Horde gets the unused versatility caster trinket. Not to mention, for whatever reason, I have the 2% more crit on Horde, but 5% more haste on Alliance before BG scaling. Blue responds, are there any other cases of this or just Shadow Priests? So they didn't
Yes.
acknowledge the trinkets at all. They just kind of like went for the haste. Or,
Right.
yeah.
Now, some people go, shouldn't it be easy look up for them? I don't think it'd be that easy for them to look that up. I think that would be a lot of actually manual looking at that stuff, don't you?
Yeah, they'd have to actually go in and look at that.
It's not like something where they can just query the database for all trinkets and try to compare what happens there.
Well,
You could you could query all your trinkets, but then you gotta manually sort through it. Then
you can look up class based, so they could just like, or not class, faction, so they can go in and look up what the alliance races can use, and they can look up what the horde races can use, because when you switch factions, it doesn't allow you to use it. So I mean, that's something that they could actually just put in a search and figure that out.
And going
you
forward,
think it'd be
not
that easy
make
for
those
that?
kind of trinkets.
But
Maybe I'm wrong.
I see that as just a racial. I mean, like, humans have every man for himself, and everybody hates that. So they have a
Right.
trinket that has it, which in turn kind of like puts a cooldown on your racial ability for 2 minutes. So really, they just made humans kind of like, okay, well, we have like an extra minute of being able to cast it. So I just see it as a racial thing.
Okay. Continue.
Greatly reduced skill players. Uh, at least for warriors, it seems that there seems to be nothing. No spell reflex, no fear, no intervene. It seems like all our PvP talents are just more ways to deal damage, with maybe 2 or 3 exceptions. When I look through other DPS classes, it seems almost the same. Most every class has become a gigantic damage bot with little else to offer, especially from a tournament standpoint. It seems like a very boring route to take. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. And Blue replies, there are some specializations that we agree seem that may feel flat for lack of utility tools right now on alpha. It would be useful for us to hear which specialization testers feel uh, are in a bad, good, or too good of a spot in that regard, with some reasons why. While the gameplay specializations without PvP talents is important, it's almost useful for us to hear feedback with full PvP talents. Some specs may feel flat baseline, but with talents feel like they're in a too good of a spot.
So at
So
least they're acknowledging that some feel flat.
yeah, well, with all the feedback that they get, but basically they were telling us that they're not getting reasons to, because people are just saying that it feels flat.
Right. That's a big thing. Anytime you give feedback on something, you should always give a reason why as well.
Yeah.
Because if I hear someone, I don't like this hamburger, and walk away, well, you don't know. You didn't tell me why you don't like this hamburger. For all I know, is you thought it was vegetarian and you don't like meat. So, oh well. Whereas you said I don't like this hamburger because it's too thick. Okay, I can adjust after a couple people say it's too thick to make it a thinner patty.
Especially
I don't know. I want the
since,
food.
like he says, with talents, you either have full PvP talents or you don't. If you just say you're flat, what does that mean? Do you have are you flat with the full talents, or are you flat just baseline?
All right.
The talents are
Demon
supposed to
Hunter,
make you feel more powerful, but
Demon
that's the
Hunters,
point.
and Demon Hunters carrying the flag. Demon Hunters are able to zoom across the map before it even has time to appear on a mini map. Time
23
it,
seconds, baby.
yeah, from point to point.
It's like Sonic the Hedgehog carrying the flag.
Right. Gotta go fast. Is it worth stunning their mobility like several other abilities while carrying the flags? It isn't fun when the flag is being picked up and captured before you really have time to react. Blues agree, and they'll be making a change very soon.
I'd like to note on this too. They do have gliding, so when you look at like Warsong Gulch, where the map is uneven and the Alliance side is higher than the Horde side, that means that they can glide from one side to the next.
Yep.
I think it'd be funny if the change they made, like just for a little while in the alpha, is they just made it where all demon hunters were blue and they had chili dogs. And when they captured the flag, they just had the character say, "Gotta go fast."
Or the entire zone's music changes to the theme song.
Yeah. Just until they got it actually fixed, like really fixed. They just make all the demon hunters seem like they're Sonic the Hedgehog. It's just like instead of a flag, it's a giant chili dog. Like this giant chili dog that you have to carry from one end to the other.
They would eat it by the time they got to the other side.
You're just saying that because we're hungry right now.
Oh, no, I'm starving right now.
Yeah, we did get off to a late start, so we're kind of running into dinner time.
Priest.
No, okay, so this is Discipline Priest. Note that AoE damage spells don't, by default, fall off after 6 targets. That's only healing spells. For damage, it's a much higher number of targets. Correct, though, but we don't have anything before that. The bulk of the value of Divine Star and Halo is still an effect of a healing. Is still indirect healing effect. Their gameplay is still meant to be focused on their use as healing spells when it comes to aiming and positioning. So that's 2 different points right there. And we didn't get either of the white questions or comments. So
I think that was just more of, in the forum, people are posting about that, and they're just making a blanket statement.
Yeah. But the second one really doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just that those are direct effects.
If you try and look up the official forum post, you just get 500 internal server errors. So.
Oh, nice.
It's like, okay, then I won't see what they're responding to.
Rogue, go.
Ooh, me? What?
Go.
Outlaw Rogue. I was saying, do we have everything available to us at the moment? I miss a few of the combats. A few of the combat spec had. Sure. As far as leveling goes and using Roll the Bones, it's fun in the world, but I can see where it will be a hinder in a raid environment. Too busy seeing what buff you got, miss and interrupt, stand in some poo, etc. I hope the boss isn't pooing everywhere. Blue says...
Oh, great, Mike. You just gave him an idea. Thank you.
By the way, for people that don't know, Roll the Bones is a finishing move that Outlaw Rogues get. And basically, it's a finishing move that rolls the dice of fate, providing a random combat enhancement lasts longer per combo point. Sorry. And what it gives you, what you have a chance of getting is you can get Jolly Roger, which is AoE plus attack speed. Grand Melee, which increases your auto attack speed by 40%. Shark Infested Waters increases critical strike chance by 40%. True Bearing for the duration of the Roll of Bones each time, blah, blah, blah. It's percent damage, proc chance. That's a long one. And Buried Treasure, your base energy regeneration increased by 40%, and Broadsides, your combo generating abilities generate 1 additional combo point. But that's basically what they're talking about, in case you don't have any clue what Roll the Bones actually is. because that's a brand new one. And basically what it's saying, you're fighting, you use roll of bones, you're like, oh, what did I get? What ability should I use with it? And the blue's response is, the intention is not for you to keep finishing for the lucky 5 buff roll of bones. If you have a theory craft indicating that it is optimal to keep using roll of bones when you already have a buff, apart from the health one, we'd love to review that. So basically, it seems like what their intent is, each random buff gives you the same DPS increase, so you shouldn't be fishing for a specific buff, which I fully agree with. Why would they make something that annoying?
Right?
Roll of bones. Nope. Roll of bones. Nope. Roll of bones. Nope. But it's
Damn
basically
you,
like a random
Bliss!
slice and it's basically supposed to be a randomized slice and dice. But according to this person posting why it isn't working that way at the moment. So Blizzard wants feedback on that, like everything else, and they will adjust things as needed.
I can see them kind of this kind of like biting them in the ass with procs. If something's based on attack speed, then you're obviously gonna want to reroll until you get that extra haste on your attacks. So you can see this falling under the category of what this guy's talking about, that you're going to keep rolling it over and over.
Yeah. All right, and Warlocks, Demonology Warlock. They haven't seen anybody talk about this, but it seems like the Dreadstalker imps are hitting significantly harder than imps summoned by Impending Doom and Hidden Guardian. The Dreadstalker rider should 100% count as the same and deal the same damage as the regular wild imp. They're just likely some bugs. So, lots of bugs. Sounds like Blizzard needs to call the Orca Man.
Yeah, the one with the cool suit that has all the high tech stuff on.
Mike or Taylor, you have anything else you want to add before we do our closing?
Blizzard, please add me to beta and alpha. Thank you.
And Charlie and Delta.
I hope they don't go into Charlie and Delta test. Yeah, Legion's not coming out for another 4 years. Sorry, guys. We just really need to fix this shit.
Yeah, I too would like to be in the alphas and betas for this stuff, but
I'd like to let people know that the Chronicles book that just came out is very interesting, but it's 200 pages of very summarized details that lead up to Warcraft 1 so far. We'll get more details on the other ones when the next Chronicles come out. It's a very good book to pick up.
okay, cool. All right, well then, Mike, what's coming up for you?
Basically more co-op stuff until I get rid of this damn cough and can actually sit down and record stuff. I want to bring my channel up to 2 videos a day, but it's just after getting the flu, it's really set me back on my plans, and the coughing and the fatigue and all that after the flu that I'm still kind of dealing with is kind of slowed me down. But I'm hoping starting next weekend, I can start getting stuff recorded and get stuff out. But we did start our 20XX playthrough that's started going, and I think we're almost done with Ruby. We might already be done with Ruby. I can't remember.
I don't think so, actually. I think we still have some time on Ruby. Didn't that go 15 episodes?
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
or was that 10 episodes?
I think. Let me look up. It went 10 episodes. We still have 2 more to go.
Yeah, so we have to get another recording in there somewhere.
Yeah, and they did make some updates to Ruby, so we can always. They made some huge changes to the combat, like they added a counter system and all that. So check that out later. I have been trying to get through my Terraria and Rising World that I did with my wife I'm trying to get through those because I still have those back in the backlog. And once I get through those, I might try and get some more up to date ones on those. At least Rising World. I would like to get back to that game. So there's been significant updates, but it's just trying to deal with this stupid cough, as you could tell through the whole podcast. Probably. I try to mute my mic as much as I can, but.
And Table, anything coming up from you?
Not specifically. Getting the stream up and running more often now. So anybody is welcome to join and watch that.
Twitch.tv/Spammery, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you and me also need to get together and actually do some more co-op stuff too.
Oh yeah, looking forward to that.
You're maybe get some. Join us on Casual Fridays.
Getting some roguelines in, guys.
That's fine. I don't think I actually ever told Mike that story yet, or that idea yet. But as for me, it's just the same old. Tales of Hysteria coming out, Hyperdimension coming out, 20XX coming out, Ruby coming out. Yeah. I think that's all. I think we should all
get back to Who's Your Daddy. They made some pretty interesting updates.
Okay, we can do that for your channel. I don't got a problem with that.
Who's Your Daddy?
But
for those of you that don't know what Who's Your Daddy is, it's nothing sexual.
On that note, thank you so much for watching. Links in the description below to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, subscribe to my channel, Mike's channel, Table's channel. Yeah. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye, Table.
See ya.